So welcome everyone to issue number 46. The topic for today is status. So I posted something about status the other day on Facebook, and I just talked to some people about what does status mean to you. What is that name? What does that word mean? What does status mean? And I think what's clear is that a lot of people immediately when they hear the word status think about internal status. Like, what do I think of myself? What is the status? What status do I have in terms of my relationship with me and when I look in the mirror? So when I look in the mirror, like, what is it? How do I consider myself? But I think there's a second kind of status, and really the status that I was considering, and they go together hand in hand for sure. But the second kind of status is that external status. Like, how is it that you are considered by other people? And for me, in business, that makes a big difference, right? I'm a criminal defense attorney, so the way in which my clients perceive me, the way in which other attorneys perceive me, the way in which the courts perceive me, all those things are very, very important to my business. And frankly, the status that I concentrate on, the status that I give time to and effort to, and the status that I've tried to build over my career, right? By doing things like being candid and honest and upfront and not saying things that aren't going to happen, and being forthcoming with information and with clients, taking care of them, communicating with them, delivering on what I tell them I'm going to deliver on. And that's certainly a pretty easy one to deal with. But there are some other kinds of status, like the status I have with my employees. That's in the business realm. But there are other, like the status I have with my children. Like, how do my children follow me? In what way do my children see me as a leader, as a father, as a coach, as someone who is giving them information in life? How about my school-age children as opposed to my adult children, and how they see me as a father and mentor and coach and friend, and what that means in terms of my status? How about my friends and the way that my friends see me? I've had a tremendous response over the last year to my physical transformation, and my friends contacting me and saying, "Hey man, what are you doing?" Right? That was an increase in my status in terms of my ability to be physically healthy and to handle my physical body. And so I got a lot of feedback from that. Still get a lot of it about fasting, for instance, when I did my video blog on fasting. And so, and about diet and about exercise and about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and how often I'm doing it and all those kind of things. And so that was a real status increase for me in terms of my body, but also in terms of my friends, right? And the way that the people in my life, my circle of influence, right? I have a circle of influence. I have a circle of influence because I have a certain amount of status. And so that status is important and goes up. And so for me, what was interesting about status is also my consideration of the status I give to others. So the other attorneys in my life for which I have a tremendous respect, whether they are, brilliant thinkers or very successful business persons, or, wonderful in the trial court and incredible at telling a story, or people that think out of the box and can come up with new and interesting ideas and new ways to attack a particular subject. Or people who have very specific knowledge, people who are incredible family attorneys or really, really good criminal trial attorneys, or in my business also people who are really excellent at forensic science and those kind of things. Those people, I give my status to them, like I give a sense of their status. I have a sense of their status, right? And so part of my question is that what do you expect in status from others and the people that you follow? What does that expectation look like? Is it always money, right? We get stuck in that a lot, right? People who have a lot of money, we give a lot of status to in our society, right? It's like, oh, they have a lot of money, so they must be doing something right. Well, that is true. I mean, that's factually true to some degree, right? Someone who's had a lot of money, or at least earned a lot of money, someone who's not been given a lot of money by someone else, but someone who's earned a lot of money has certainly figured out something, right? Figured out some way to do that, right? And so there is a certain amount of status that goes with that, right? But we don't know what's going on in the rest of their lives, right? We don't. So I wouldn't go to a person who has, $20 million in the bank and ask them how to have a great marriage, because I don't know what kind of marriage they have, right? Or we can go to a person who has $20 million in the bank and ask them how to be a great dad, because who knows, right? Not until I have established status in regard to that piece of information, right? And so, someone who came to me to run a business, to run a law business, I would say to them, look, I've been in business for 10 years and I've been around for a long time and I know how to market. I ain't great at running like the everyday business thing, so I may not be the best guy to talk to, In fact, why don't you and I get together and go find somebody else to talk to, and I'll come with you and learn something. I mean, that's just the truth about me, right? On the other hand, if you came to me and talked to me about trial work, if you came to me to say, hey man, what do you think about this part of a jury trial? I'm really comfortable with saying, all right, I have some good information to give you there. I've got a certain set of status, I've got a certain bit of status, and I've got some good information in terms of I know how to tell you what I've done, the experience I've had, the successes I've had, and this is how I'm going to give it to you. And I feel real confident in my status in that regard, which is an interesting question because part of the question in status is not only how are you perceived by others, this is the combination of the two, how are you perceived by others, but how you perceive yourself. And so in regard to the status as it relates to me in jury trial work, how do others perceive me in jury trial work? And frankly, how do I perceive myself? Like, how do I feel about my own ability to conduct a jury trial, right? Jury trials are easy for me to talk about because it's probably the place in my life where I feel the most status, where I feel the most comfortable, where I feel the most worthy, where I feel the most skilled, where I feel I have the most experience, and frankly, where I'm the most exceptional. For me, is in front of a jury. That to me is like the pinnacle of my status pyramid is jury trial work. And right under that is forensic science work and forensic science knowledge and expertise. And then it sort of rolls down from there, right? Somewhere in there is, somewhere on that list is husband, dad. Somewhere on that list is a spiritual connection. Somewhere on that list is body, right? Like the way that I deal with my body and diet. Maybe that's above some of those other ones. Some of those other ones maybe I need to pick up a little bit. So for me, it's all the status question is tied into how I conduct my life for sure, how I perceive my own life, what I'm doing in my life, the behavior I have in my life, but also how it's being perceived by others, right? And for me, the important question is, and really why I started talking about this in the first place, was just to kind of get a sense about how and where other people, what is the status you look for? I mean, if you went to find someone to be your jury trial attorney, what would be the status you would look for? Is it victories alone? Is it the ability to convey a message to you in a forum like this? Is it the size of the law firm they work for? I mean, what is it that draws you to someone in that environment? If you're a jury trial attorney and you are looking for someone to instruct you in that regard, someone to coach you in that regard, what would you look for? Is it victories alone? Is it the size of the law firm they work in? Is it the ability to convey information to you? Does it include a piece about coaching and the ability to coach and to bring people up, right, in an environment, to rise the community, right? And so that's really what the question was about, is where do you seek status? Where do you see status in others, and how do you see status in yourself, and how do you see the perception of your own status by others, right? There's a bunch of nuanced questions in there that I think are important to think about, especially for any of us who are, I mean, look, this status question is not something that doesn't exist. You can't check out of the status thing, right? You just can't, because the truth is that we're all members of a community. We all interrelate with each other every day, and status is one of those fundamental precepts of us relating to each other, that we must consider the status we have in relating to each other. If we stop sort of thinking about the way that status works in our lives, then we essentially are kind of ejecting ourselves from the social construct that we have with this community that we live in. And so how is it that you are considering status in your everyday life? What is it important for you to consider status? And how are you creating or growing the status in your life? Those are the questions that I have. And so, again, it's more about just some questions that came up for me and some realizations I had about my own status and what I'm planning on doing in my life. So thank you for coming by. I appreciate you listening, and I will see you guys tomorrow.